Welcome! This is a training for event planners that are interested in making their event a zero-waste event and how Washtenaw County can support that. So, let's get started. This training will go over what a zero-waste event is, how to plan and run a zero-waste event, and how to measure and share success. A zero-waste event is an event that diverts at least 90% of its waste from entering the landfill or incinerators to instead be used as resources. This is done by having an event planning team that's committed to minimizing all the event's waste, working with event partners and vendors to reduce waste, and providing attendees with guidance and access to reuse, recycle, and compost. We're going to dive into the details of how to do these things and plan a successful zero-waste event. You need to begin with the end in mind. At the end of the event, you'll need to put your materials somewhere. So where will that be? Are there existing trash, recycle, or compost dumpsters at the event site you can use? If not, do you need to rent any? Or do you need to drop off materials somewhere after the event? Once you know where your items are going, you'll know exactly what's accepted in the recycling and compost, because accepted items can vary depending on where they go. We can assist you in identifying what to do with your materials after the event. Next, you'll need to identify all the materials being passed out at your event so you can confirm that they are reusable, recyclable, or compostable. Top questions to ask yourself when planning are: who is passing out materials at the event? Think about food vendors, exhibitors, welcome tables, setup and cleanup materials, and other areas. Who will coordinate with the food vendors if you have any? Are all the identified materials compostable or recyclable? If not, what are some zero-waste alternatives? Are there opportunities for reusable products instead of single-use? For example, bulk condiment dispensers and the ability to refill water bottles will cut down on waste. Let your event partners know about your zero-waste goals. Give them guidelines and identify what will be distributed at the event. For best success, inform them of the zero-waste goal before they agree to attend, especially for food vendors. If you are having food vendors at your event, that is going to be the primary piece of your planning regarding waste. Food serviceware that attendees get will need to be discarded, and that will be your main source of materials that are passed out and then collected at your event. Events typically use certified compostable products for food and drinks. There are two main compostable certifications for products: Biodegradable Products Institute, BPI, or Compost Manufacturers Alliance, CMA. Check with where your compost is going on what their guidelines are for accepted items. There are a lot of products that may look like these, but that are lined with wax or plastic, which are not compostable. Additionally, biodegradable is not the same thing as compostable. That's why it's helpful to have your food vendors tell you exactly what products they plan to use so you can reconfirm that they are in fact compostable. Sometimes food vendors have great intentions, they're just misled by product descriptions that make the product sound more environmentally friendly than they are. It's important to be clear with vendors about the zero-waste guidelines before they agree to attend the event. Some events find it helpful to have a zero-waste vendor agreement where vendors list the materials they plan to use and agree to follow the zero-waste guidelines. When events do not require their vendors to follow the zero-waste guidelines, they end up with a mix of compostable products and trash products being passed out, which leads to confusion for event attendees when trying to sort their waste and contamination in the compostables. After working with your food vendors and getting a list of items they're using, confirm that they're recyclable or compostable, or provide input on alternatives. We have zero-waste event vendor guidelines and a sample zero-waste event vendor agreement form that can be used when communicating with vendors. This is showing the zero-waste stations that we can provide. It includes receptacles for compostables and recyclables, including the bags, 5-gallon buckets for landfill waste and liquids if needed, and signage based on the accepted materials. Next, assess your event layout and decide where you'll place zero-waste stations to maximize material recovery. First, you'll need to identify if there's existing waste or recycling bins at the event site. You don't want your attendees to use these, you want them to use the zero-waste stations. If there are existing receptacles at the site, can these be removed or covered? You'll see in the image an example of a covered trash can with a sign directing event attendees to use the nearest zero-waste station. Alternatively, you can pair the compost and recycle receptacles with an existing waste receptacle. But we do encourage the use of the 5-gallon waste bucket because it's a visual demonstration of the zero waste goal and that landfill waste can be a small component of everything we're discarding. Also, Large trash cans are what people are most used to using, so they often default to putting their materials in there when they see it as an option. You can strategically place zero waste stations based on where people will most likely need them or look for them. If you have an area where people are sitting to eat, you'll want to place stations nearby because as people finish eating, they tend to scan the area for somewhere to place their waste. It's also common for people to carry items from where they ate towards a bathroom or parking area. So think about high foot traffic areas and place stations there. Volunteers help make the event run smoothly without event planners needing to worry about the zero waste stations during the event. It's best to have someone monitoring each station throughout the event. Volunteers educate attendees on where to place their waste. Sometimes signs are simply not enough, and having a person there to coach attendees and empower them in their decision is appreciated. Volunteers also help prevent contamination in the recycle and compost. This will make your life easier throughout the event and at the end because you can be confident that the recycle and compost aren't full of trash and you won't need to dig through them to remove contamination. Volunteers can also help replace bags when they fill up, so you don't have to worry about bags not being replaced in a timely manner. Raising awareness among your event attendees about your zero waste goal will increase success. There are several places you can include information about your goal, such as the event's promotional materials, tabletop displays where people are eating, yard signs and banners at the event, and announcements at the event if there's a microphone. It's helpful to give people many points of exposure to the zero waste goal so that they are aware and prepared. You'll want to have a plan for how the event cleanup will go. There will be cleanup throughout the event to maintain the zero waste stations and at the very end of the event. Throughout the event, have a designated area for bag collection to weigh and store bags, and have a process for doing a quality control check on the bags of compostables and recyclables to make sure there isn't any contamination. At the very end of the event, check all the zero waste station areas to make sure nothing's been left behind, check behind the scenes waste, and put your items in their final destination. We provide events with a handheld scale as shown here to weigh bags and a metrics recording sheet. Events that weigh their materials have greater success in future years of an event because they're tracking their progress and setting goals. The weights are used to calculate the event's landfill diversion rate, which is a percentage of discarded material from the event that's recycled and composted. The landfill diversion rate is a great way to set goals and measure progress over time. Once you have your landfill diversion rate, share your results with the community, your vendors, and your event planning committee. You put a lot of work into making this event a zero waste event, so celebrate! Thank you for watching this training and being interested in making your event a zero waste event. These public displays of minimizing landfill waste help make our vision of a zero waste future come to life. If you're ready to move forward, fill out the event request form at zerowastewashtenaw.com, where we'll collect more details about your event and then set up your pre-event consultation.